Hi, I'm Guy from Scoop. Configurations of MikroTik devices can seem daunting to anybody just starting out. However, MikroTik commands a strong global market share precisely because of the granular control you can exercise. The tech community loves their creative approach to finding different ways of doing things. If you're new to MikroTik, we'll help you overcome these initial hurdles and welcome you into a world of networking possibilities. A virtual local area network, or VLAN, is a powerful feature in your networking arsenal. However, we find that so many people still don't use VLANs to their full potential, or at all. Mostly, it seems to be from a lack of knowledge and implementation, or not fully understanding the benefits. If you're one of those still on the fence, then after watching this video, you'll be running your own VLANs in no time. A VLAN splits your physical network into smaller, separate networks. Even if all computers on your network are connected to the same physical switch, the VLAN isolates them into groups, which for all intents and purposes can't communicate with one another. So why might we want this? There are several benefits to arranging a network this way. Firstly, we've already mentioned organizing devices into manageable groups. For example, we can create staff, guests, or management networks for an office environment, or home, security, and IoT networks for home users. Second is the security implication. The more devices you introduce to a network, the more vulnerabilities come with them. By isolating certain groups from each other, you mitigate the risk of an unauthorized person seeking to intrude on data they have no business accessing. Thirdly, you reduce network congestion by allowing devices to only access or receive what is meant for them. Another benefit is the saving of time, since changing policies to whole groups assigned to a VLAN is quick and easy. And a fifth benefit, of course, is savings in money, when you don't have to buy additional switches or cabling for each network, since you're using the hardware infrastructure already in place. Okay, so if you're not convinced to give this a try yet, then let's show you how to configure a basic VLAN on a MikroTik router and switch. We're using our trusty RB-L009 and a CRS310 with the latest router OS, which for us, in December 2025, is version 7.20.4. In the first config, we'll create a management VLAN to provide IPs on Ether 3 of the L009. All other ports are going to hand out the default network range. Secondly, we'll create more VLAN networks, 20 for guests and 30 for IoT. We'll set a trunk port on the L009 and the CRS310 switch, and then configure ports on the switch to connect to specific VLANs. Right, let's start. Using the default configuration on the L009, we start by navigating to the bridge and then the ports tab. Here you'll be selecting Ether 3 to be your management VLAN. Open Ether 3. In its VLAN tab, enter 10 in the PVID box. This untags or reserves the port for VLAN 10. Next, head to the Bridge section's VLAN tab and create a new VLAN. Leave Bridge as is, because it'll apply to our only bridge. VLAN ID must be set to 10. We select Ether 3 in the Untagged section. This means that all traffic coming into the port will be tagged with VLAN 10 and be on that network. Note, this config won't do anything until we enable VLAN filtering on the bridge interface. It is recommended to only enable it once your VLAN settings are complete, so that you do not lock yourself out of the device when it activates. Let's enable it now. Head to the Bridge tab, open the Bridge interface, go to the VLAN tab and enable VLAN filtering. Click OK. With this portion prepped, you need to create a software VLAN interface which you'll use to give out IPs on this VLAN. Open Interfaces, click on New and select VLAN. Name it. We called it Management and input the VLAN ID of 10. Select the bridge as the interface that the VLAN will run on. Click OK. As with other interfaces, it needs an IP so you know what range it will be using. You'll do that now. Then create a DHCP server on that interface to allow it to hand out IPs for that VLAN. If you feel you're in deep water on how to do this, please watch our previous videos on this Back to Basics series where we covered setting up a DHCP server. You'll find a detailed step-by-step there that'll bring you up to speed. At this point, just a precaution, we'll add the management VLAN to the LAN interface list so that we still have access to the router should anything go wrong. Navigate to Interfaces. Then the Interface List tab and click on New. Select the management VLAN as the interface and LAN as the list. Click OK. If you connect to the Ether3 now, you'll get an IP from the management VLAN network. We now have WAN on port 1, the native network on ports 2 and 4 through 8, and management VLAN on port 3. Second setup, the router and switch. In this section, we'll configure the router and switch with a trunk port and allow all VLANs and the native network through, while ports 2, 4, and 6 on the CRS310 connect to VLANs 10, 20, and 30 respectively. This kind of setup is great for most home or office networks wanting network segregation while using the same MikroTik switch. You'll pick up where we left off from the previous config, but head back to the Bridge, then VLANs tab. Here you'll need to add the other VLANs, 20 and 30, and specify Ether6 as the trunk port. Open the previously created VLAN and by the tag section, add Ether6. Click OK. This makes Ether6 the trunk port. You can now use the copy option to make things convenient. Copy the VLAN config, change the ID to 20, and remove the untagged Ether3 interface. Do this again for VLAN 30. Once again, you'll need to create new software interfaces for the VLANs in order to apply IPs to them. This is essentially a repeat of what we just did. Use the copy option on the management VLAN interface and change the VLAN ID to 20 and 30 while naming the interfaces for reference. With that done, you'll need to add the IP and then create a DHCP server for each. For the IP, we're setting it to 10.0.20.1/24 for guests and 10.0.30.1/24 for IoT, but you can use whatever IP you'd like. Now create a DHCP server for each, similar to what we did for the management VLAN. This concludes the router portion, and you'll now start configuring the switch. Connect your cable to a native network port on the router or switch, such as Ether7 on either. Once connected and logged into the switch, action the following. In Bridge, then VLANs, create a new VLAN and set the ID to 10. In the tag section, we select Ether1 since that's our trunk port. By untagged, we select the port that the VLAN must apply to, so Ether2 is our access port. Copy this config, but change the VLAN ID and untagged port to the relevant setting for those VLANs. 20 for guests and on Ether4, while 30 for IoT and on Ether6. After this, go to ports and configure the ports with the corresponding VLAN going through it. In our demo, it's VLAN 10 on Ether2, 20 on Ether4, and 30 on Ether6. For management purposes, we'll give the switch a software VLAN interface and assign a management IP on port 2, but this is not necessary for the other VLANs. Do this the same way we did in the first setup, but a different IP to the one on the router. Because you're using a software-defined interface, you'll need to go back to the Bridge, VLANs table, open the VLAN 10 config, and add the Bridge interface to the list of tagged interfaces. Finally, head to the Bridge tab, open the Bridge config, and enable the VLAN filtering option to make the VLAN configs take effect. With this done, your switch ports should be handing out the IPs associated with the VLAN. Give it a try. You can use this kind of configuration in other deployments to segregate the networks into more manageable scopes. There are some firewall rules that can be used to isolate or block access from one VLAN to another, but that's for another video. I hope this quick tutorial helps you organize your network more effectively. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Guy from Scoop.